Hello and welcome to my new mini-series on the Final Flight podcast, where I'm going to be talking through a few of my horses to follow for the upcoming jump season, and I'm hoping that it can be a pretty informative series and hopefully a profitable season to come. So the format I'm going to go with is I'm sort of going to go through a few of the novice hurdlers that I quite like for the new season, some novice chasers. A couple of point-to-point recruits, could be for bumpers or hurdles, depending on which way they go towards the end. And then towards the end of the series, I'll be looking at more of the open graded races. But I do think quite a few of these, some of you may know, some might be those sort of hidden gems that maybe go under the radar. But I'm hoping that as we go along, we can find some decent winners as we go. So I'm going to get straight into it. With jumpers to follow for the 2023-24 season by myself, James Wood. So the first one, and it needs no introduction, but I'm going to go for A Dream to Share. As you can see, JP McManus owned. JP obviously bought this horse just before the Cheltenham Festival after being extremely impressive in his bumpers. Obviously won a couple of bumpers early on in 22, but the real nitty-gritty of his season kicked off at the Dublin Racing Festival, I would say, where he put away the likes of Factor File and a few other nice winners in behind. And I just think he looks the real deal for me. I know, obviously, a few things have been mentioned online today that the sire hasn't produced any sort of top-level hurdlers, if any at all. But I do think this guy can break that mould. I think if he takes the hurdles, I think there won't be many in front of him this season. You know, I said on Twitter that if he were Mullins trained, I think it'd be a very short price for the Supreme and probably the Ballymore, similar to Facile Vega last season. But I just think A Dream to Share. He just looks so exceptional in the way he powers through his races. The champion bumper, where he put so many last time out winners away. I mean, in theory, with ease, really. Again, Factor Foul back in second and a few other nice types that we probably will get onto later on in this series. But for me, I just think he's the standout one. Similar to Facile Vega last season, I think he's going to go and be a Supreme horse, me personally. I know a few might tout him for the Ballymore, but I think if he takes the hurdles, the way he travels and stays all day long, but he has that turn of pace as well to put sort of these races to bed. He just really looks an exceptional horse for me. So the first one, obviously, I've got my pin on, Racing Pins. Obviously, I'll give them a little shout out. Some brilliant stuff. I got the pack. It's fantastic. Can't wait to get myself on the track and wear them. But like I say, he's just got the X factor for me. And I think to kick off this series, it has to be A Dream to Share for McManus. He's trained by Johnny Keeley. I think Supreme Novice Hurdle. I think you can get around 92 currently. Obviously, this isn't an anti-post show. It's just me going through my horses to follow, so we won't really go into much like that. But yeah, I think he's going to be a standout performer for the season to come. Nice start. Right, so the second one for me going into it is going to be Factual Fatch for Rob Corr. Henry de Bromhead's got this one, and he obviously won an exceptional. Well, it was an exceptional performance, in his bumper at Thurles. If you go back and watch the race, he's been ridden so confidently, in my opinion. He's been ridden out the back. Patiently waiting for the race to unfold, and the way he's just cantered past them all and powered away, I thought it was fantastic to watch. I feel like he will go under the radar a little bit potentially, but he just looked a little green. He was sort of wandering around towards the end, but he just powered clear of a decent field. He's by authorised, so you know he's going to have some speed. I think a Supreme Ballymore again could probably go either trip. You know, we'll see him in a couple of novice hurdles earlier in the season. But I do think Henry de Bromhead's got himself a nice one here, and I quite like Factual Fact. There's plenty of speed in the pedigree, so I mean, he probably would go towards the Supreme if anything. But I do think he's going to pick up a couple of them early novice hurdles over in Ireland for Henry. I think he's going to look the real deal. So I quite like Factual Fact, and that's my second horse to follow in this series. Obviously, it's a tester series. I'm hoping people enjoy the content, but I'm going to keep putting my opinions on there. No matter what, so we will obviously bounce these out. The next one I'm going to like is Stellar Story. Believe it or not, there's no Willie Mullins in this first episode, which is probably surprising you, but I'm going to go for Stellar Story for Gigastown and Gordon Elliott. I'm touting him he's definitely going to be a stayer. If you go through his sort of point-to-point form, he's a brother to Storyteller, who obviously we know is a top-level stayer, top-level chaser. And I think this guy's going to be one again. I keep using this phrase under the radar, but he unseated. You go back through his point-to-point form. He unseated in a point-to-point won by Corbett's Cross, and we obviously know how well he's gone on to do. And it was then a winner pretty easy winner of his second point-to-point over 3 mile, and he won himself a hefty price tag of around 310,000, which obviously he knows quite a lot of money. And he's gone into training with obviously with Gordon Elliott, and like I say, he made his rules debut in a bumper, a pretty hot bumper. The likes of Dr. Bravo, Nick Rockett's in there. I think he might get a mention later on as one of my horses to follow. But yeah, it's a pretty hot bumper, and he won that quite well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to him. He still looks a little bit green. He looks an absolute stayer to me. I think he seems to be a little bit outpaced in his race, but again, staying on so strongly towards the end. And I do think he'd be the type to potentially, mould into an Albert Bartlett horse. If I just quickly check my notes, his last run before being put away, he did pip a short price Mullins horse. He was completely outpaced over a sharp trip, and he stayed on strong and just picked him up late on. And I just think he's got bags of potential. I think Gordon Elliott knows the sort of type of horse he wants in these sort of stayers, and he can go and win those types of races. So I think definitely going through the season, if he's sort of 2 mile 4 up to 3 mile on soft ground, I think he'd be the type to pick up some early races as well. And you just never know. He could go on to the spring festivals potentially, but I do think he'd be maybe a little bit more of a soft ground horse personally, a bit of a real strong stayer. So yeah, I quite like Stellar Story. Obviously, I don't want to keep you too long, so I don't want you to bore you to death. But the next one I'm going to go for is a Paul Nicholls runner, and one I really like this horse, and I will probably go back to the champion bumper quite a couple of times. But I think Captain Teague for Paul Nicholls. I just think if you go back and watch the champion bumper, it's a really good run. To say that he'd only his second run at the track in a bumper, and Nicholls has thrown him into the champion bumper, and he's run such a good race. He was a little bit outpaced again, and he stayed on strong. He got caught up a little bit in the altercation that sort of pushed back Lucky Watson, but again, he looked a bit green and wandering about a little bit, and I just think there's bags of potential. You've got the likes of Brave Man Game and that sort of thing, and it's taking the same sort of route, and I think obviously he will be a chaser in time, but I do think you got these sort of horses for Nicholls. Nicholls obviously spent quite a lot of money at the sales lately, but I just think Captain Teague coming into a novice hurdle season, he'll definitely be picking up races around the UK, and then you'd assume he'd just take his chance at the big spring festivals, the likes of obviously Cheltenham. I do think he'd be a Ballymore type. I think if he sorts that bit of greenness out, he just looks like a real strong traveller. I really like Captain Teague, and I just think he's going to be the horse to improve after a summer. And if he comes into his frame a little bit, I just think he's going to go really well over hurdles. Once he sees a hurdle, I think he's going to be an exceptional horse for Nicholls. Brilliant. Right then, the next one. I'm moving on to some novice chasers now. And I don't think I could do a first episode of this series without mentioning the enigma that is Facile Vega. I do absolutely love this horse. I did end up taking him on at Cheltenham last year with Marine National. Obviously, coming to Cheltenham with that cloud above his head from the Dublin Racing Festival. Obviously, that altercation with High Definition. It just made us all think a little bit like, oh, is he the real deal? We're not too sure. Is he not? And luckily, he didn't do himself any. Well, he did himself plenty of favours with that run. I thought coming off the back of that to still come second to Marine National, who obviously we know is a pretty decent horse, probably going to be a superstar for the Arkle this year, going chasing according to Barry Connell. So I think Facile Vega, I think he's going to be made for a fence. I think the 2 mile 4 trip's likely going to be his cup of tea. I do think obviously Willie's going to have the likes of Imperia Pass to go probably chasing potentially the Arkle. I do think he's a similar sort of type to El Fabiolo. So I think for me, I quite like Facile Vega for the Turners. I think he just showed exceptional form. You go back, he's only been, I know he's been beaten twice, but you've got to put a line through the run with High Definition. He bounced back at Cheltenham, I thought. It was a good run behind Marine National. And then to back up with an easy win at the Punchestown Festival, I just think he's the type of horse just to improve for a trip and a fence. I think he's a big unit. Obviously, Quavega was amazing stay, 2 mile 4 plus. So I think you get Facile Vega over a trip, and I think you're going to see really what he's made of. And I do hope that he cracks on and goes and wins another big race. I know Marine National obviously is a superstar, so if he can frank that form, that'd be great. But yeah, I think Facile Vega for me is definitely one to keep on side for the coming novice chase season. Fantastic. So the next one then, I'm going to go for Hermes Allen, another Nicholls runner. I'm quite liking the look of Nicholls this season. I think you'll find me probably looking at a few of his runners this year. I think he's bought a lot of young horses. He's rolling his team out, and I think a few of his that may be slightly disappointed towards the end of last season might be coming with a little bit more improvement after a bit more time in his care. And obviously the likes of Hermes Allan, he's sort of again taken the similar route to Braveman's Game. Won the Challow Hurdle. It was really soft ground, and he did absolutely batter the rest. Whether they've all just not taken to the ground, I don't know, but he just looks so impressive. And obviously going into that Ballymore with the reputation of all the UK on his shoulders, I do think he ran okay. He likes having Imperial Past Gaelic Warrior. They're going to be top level horses, and I just think Hermes Allan is probably made to be a chaser. I think Nichols will probably be saying that quite a lot this season. He's built to be a chaser. I think obviously the Ballymore didn't go quite to plan, but the rumour is he's had a wind up during the summer. So I think, like I say, a similar path to Braveman's Game. You'll probably see him in these early novice chases. He'll be picking up a few. If he jumps well, there won't be much in the UK that gets too close to him, I wouldn't have thought. So like I say, I think I really fancy him to kick on into this novice chase season, and I'm really excited to see where he ends up. I do feel he'll be over the staying trips, your 2 mile fours plus up to 3 mile. He might not start off at 3 mile straight away. Like I say, I'll probably start him off in a 2 mile 4 novice somewhere and let him bounce around and get his jumping on point before he looks to the spring festivals. So yeah, that's another one I quite like for Nichols. He obviously had good point-to-point form, and he's going to stay. So I do think he's always had staying chasing in mind, and he kind of just got to put a line through the Ballymore, similar to Braveman's Game. We know he bombed out in the Ballymore, and look what he's gone on to do. I know my friend Richel absolutely loves Braveman's Game, so I'm no doubt he's going to absolutely love Hermes Allan as well. Fantastic. So I've got one more novice chaser for you for this episode, and I'm going to go with Sandor Clegane for Paul Nolan. Oops, that's the wrong button. Go back. Oh, I've not put it in. Okay, no problem. I'll just remove that for a second. So yeah, I've got Sandor Clegane as my next one for Paul Nolan. I've obviously not added on the visual for that one, but I just think this guy's been made for a fence. He's going to be made for a trip, made for a fence. I think the 2 mile 4 plus is going to be his cup of tea. I do think he may even go further. So I know a few people potentially might tout him for the national chase as he still comes into this. But yeah, I just think 3 miles. He's got good form in behind the likes of Facile Vega. The Dublin Racing Festival did really well in behind Goodland. So I quite like that form. He just looks strong form for me. He didn't run too bad in the Albert Bartlett either. But then you look at his form at the Punchestown. Now, not many horses managed to back it up at Punchestown, and this fella did, and he looked even more impressive. I think he absolutely battered the likes of that horse now, I forgot his name. 3-Car Bragg. He battered 3-Car Bragg over a trip at Punchestown Festival. I think he's just with another season under his belt. He's going to come in. He's a real strong traveller, and one that I'm really excited for. I think Paul Nolan knows what sort of type of horse he's got here. He's a staying chaser. They'll get him into the novice chase division, and see where he ends up. But I do think he'll be picking up novice chases over in Ireland, and then we'll have a crack at the likes of the Brown Advisory, I would have thought. So he could be one that's maybe not the classiest type, but he just looks the type to really, really improve for a fence. So I'm looking forward to Sandor Clegane taking on the fences this season. Like I say, he's only 6. He's got a big upward curve, loads of improvement in him. I think he's going to go really well. So that's my novice chases for this episode. So my last little segment I'm going to do is a little bit of a point-to-point recruit. So I've sort of had a look through some of the point-to-points lately, the sales over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, and picked out a few that I quite like. I've rewatched the point-to-point runs, and the first one I'm going to come in with is a horse called Working Away. Now, I will have to revert to my notes, but Working Away has gone to Giggerstown, Gordon Elliott. It was a massive purchase, 330k, which is pretty decent money. There's quite a lot of money being shifted. If you go through the sales, there's absolutely fortunes being spent on these horses. But I thought I'd pick Working Away, as I've done a lot of that in the past, so I thought it felt quite fitting to have him up first. And he won his first point to point in fine style. And if you go back and check the times, it was 10 seconds faster than the gelding equivalent on that day. Obviously, this is a 5-year-old mare, so she'll definitely go down the novice chasing route. I would have thought. They won't mess about with her, won't waste too much time in bumpers, and I'm hoping to see her in a novice chase somewhere. So I'd definitely be keeping her on the radar in the track. I'd see where she does end up. If she does go bumpers, I know Gordon Elliott does start to take his time sometimes, but sometimes if you've got a good one, you kind of just got to go for it. But I think working away, if you go back, she's related to some triple figure chase winners. And there's plenty of stamina in the family, so although she's quite quick, and if you watch the point to point back, she does look pretty waxy. She powers away from the second, and she looks really impressive. So that's working away, and there for Gordon Elliott. And the other one is one that I don't know why I've put this one in here because I can barely pronounce it. But again, I've gone back to Nichols, and McNeil family have purchased this one. I'm going to say it's called Quebecoy. We're going to go with again another 300k plus purchase. This one's a 4-year-old gelding, and this one's actually second in his point to point. But I do think he's out of no risk at all. So he's going to be a good strong traveller, and he showed a very high cruising speed in the point to point where he did come second. And although I only found one too good, I do think this one's going to have plenty of improvement to come under the influence of Nichols, and I just think they're going to give him the time he needs. We'll probably see him in bumpers early this season, but I just think it's one to keep on side. And I know sometimes these sort of point-to-point recruits, they do get a little bit lost if you don't keep them in the trackers early when they're running in bumpers and things like that. But I just think some of these that I will mention throughout this series is just where you just want to put them in the tracker and keep them for a rainy day. Some may go bumpers, some may go hurdle. We might not see a few till the next season, but it's just a case of putting them in the trackers and waiting for them to crop up. But like I say, it's related to stacks of winners. I won't go into it too deep, but it's related to stacks of winners. It probably will be in bumpers, and I just think Quebecoy, it looks like a real class act, and I really was impressed by his point-to-point win. Sorry, second place. he just looked good. He looked talented, and I know I'll probably come on to the winner later on in the series, but I thought I'd start with the Nichols runner. And that's Quebecoy. Get these horses in the trackers. So that's going to be the episode. Like I say, I only wanted to do sort of a quick, not too long, just run through some of these hot jumpers to follow. I have got my my jumpers to follow book out on Twitter and all my other socials. So if you do want that and you want to look at all of my hot jumpers to follow for the new season, I did come up with 77 in total, quite a few chasers, hurdlers, that sort of thing. So if you do want that, I am trying to raise some money for charity. The charity is Hull for Heroes. It's a veterans charity. They help a lot of veterans reacclimatise to civilian life and things like that. So if you are interested in donating for a copy of that, please do drop us a message and I'll get you a copy of that over. You can donate £1, a £5, £10, whatever you want. Doesn't matter as long as it's something to a great cause. And that's going to be the first episode. So like I say, like and subscribe to the channel. I'm going to drop this every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. So you should get it every single week. There's 8 series weeks as we lead up to the kick-off Chepstow and the big jump season starts, and we cannot wait for it. I know we've got plenty planned for the jump season. It's going to be a cracker, and we obviously can't wait. So like I say, like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for listening to my probably a bit boring monotone voice. But like I say, I'm going to go through my jumpers to follow, and fingers crossed we can have a quality season. So that's me. I'm James. Follow me on Twitter, Woodsy92. Subscribe to the YouTube channel down there. And we will see you next time on this series. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.